The Cargo, Singapore's hidden trade, inspired by true crime stories. Welcome to Crime Stories PH, where we uncover the darkest secrets hidden in plain sight. Today, we bring you The Cargo, a chilling investigation into Singapore's underbelly, where luxury and wealth mask a sinister human trafficking operation. Our story follows journalist Ji Wei Tan as he races against time to expose a powerful syndicate before becoming their next victim. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell to never miss our weekly exposés of Asia's most shocking criminal enterprises. This is Crime Stories PH, where truth is stranger than fiction. The Marina Bay sands glistened in the Singapore sunlight, 3 towers crowned with what looked like a floating ship. From the observation deck, Ji Wei Tan adjusted his camera lens, focusing not on the infinity pool that tourists flock to photograph, but on the luxury cruise liner docked at the Singapore Cruise Center below. "Perfect," he muttered, capturing several shots of a group boarding the vessel. To anyone else, they appeared to be wealthy tourists embarking on a vacation. But Wei knew better. 3 months ago, while working on a fluff piece about Singapore tourism, Wei had noticed something odd. The same faces appearing in different tour groups, always accompanying different travelers. His editor had dismissed it as coincidence, but Wei couldn't let it go. His persistence had led him here, to what he now believed was the sophisticated operation of the Jade Lotus Syndicate, one of Southeast Asia's most elusive human trafficking networks. The syndicate's brilliance lay in their method: hide in plain sight. They disguised victims as wealthy tourists, provided them with authentic-looking documentation, and transported them aboard luxury liners where security was focused on terrorism, not trafficking. Wei lowered his camera as his phone vibrated. A message from his contact, Mei Lin, meeting confirmed. Sunset, East Coast Park, area. Come alone. Mei Lin had once been a victim herself, rescued during a raid in Malaysia. Now she worked with a victim support organization, carefully gathering testimonies from those who had escaped. Wei had earned her trust over weeks of conversations, proving his commitment to exposing the truth rather than just scoring a headline. As Wei packed up his equipment, he didn't notice the man in the tailored suit watching him from across the observation deck, speaking quietly into a Bluetooth earpiece. "He's leaving now. Should I follow?" Mei Lin had once been a victim herself, rescued during a raid in Malaysia. Now she worked with a victim support organization, carefully gathering testimonies from those who had escaped. Wei had earned her trust over weeks of conversations, proving his commitment to exposing the truth rather than just scoring a headline. As Wei packed up his equipment, he didn't notice the man in the tailored suit watching him from across the observation deck, speaking quietly into a Bluetooth earpiece. "He's leaving now. Should I follow?" Wei arrived at East Coast Park as the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the palm trees. He chose a bench with a clear view in all directions, his journalist's instinct for self-preservation well honed after years of investigative work. Mei Lin appeared, moving cautiously through the evening crowd of joggers and families. She sat beside him without making eye contact. "I'm taking a risk meeting you," she said quietly. "They have people everywhere." "I appreciate it," Wei replied. "Did you bring it?" She slipped a thumb drive into his palm. Testimonies from 12 victims. Names, dates, shipping manifests. "The woman you need to find is Liana Dharma. She's their scout." Wei pocketed the drive. "This is enough to take to the authorities." Mei Lin's laugh was bitter. "They have people in the police too. Be careful who you trust." As she stood to leave, she touched his shoulder. "There's more. The leader, we call him the captain, he's not who you think. Look for the symbol of the White Lotus." That's all I can say. Wei watched her disappear into the growing darkness, unaware that from a nearby food stall, A woman with sharp eyes observed their entire exchange. The Jade Lotus Syndicate operated from a nondescript office building in the business district. The sign on the door read Pacific Horizons Travel Agency. And to most clients, that's exactly what it was, a high-end travel service catering to wealthy clients. On the top floor, Reza Dharma, known to his associates simply as the captain, reviewed the photographs his security team had taken of Wei and Mei Lin's meeting. At 58, Reza moved with the confidence of a man who had built an empire from nothing. Born to a poor family in Jakarta, he had clawed his way up through Singapore's underworld until he'd found his niche, trafficking humans disguised as luxury. Liana, he addressed the woman who had observed the meeting. Tell me about this journalist. His daughter stepped forward, elegant in a designer suit, her expression coolly professional. At 32, Liana Dharma was the syndicate's most effective scout. With her business degree from American University and impeccable manners, she could move easily in Singapore's elite circles. Jiwei Tan, 34, freelance investigative journalist. He's been tracking our operations for 3 months, she reported. The woman is Mei Lin, former merchandise from our Kuala Lumpur operation. Ray's face darkened. Merchandise shouldn't have names or histories. How much does he know? Enough to be dangerous, Liana replied, but not enough to understand the full scope. The full scope was what made the Jade Lotus operation virtually untouchable. They weren't just trafficking laborers or sex workers. They were providing specialized services to some of the wealthiest and most powerful individuals across Southeast Asia. Politicians, business leaders, even law enforcement officials were clients or partners. We have a shipment leaving tomorrow, Reza said. 30 packages bound for private collectors in Jakarta, Bangkok, and Manila. Should we delay? Asked Huang, his security chief. No, Reza said firmly. But we need to neutralize this journalist. Liana, you'll handle it. Liana nodded, already formulating a plan. Wei was a threat, but also an opportunity. If he had evidence, they needed to find it before he could publish. Wei returned to his small apartment in Tiong Bahru, an older neighborhood that had become trendy among young professionals. He inserted Mei Lin's thumb drive into his laptop, his heart racing as he opened the encrypted files. What he found exceeded his expectations. There were financial records, photographs, and most damning of all, video testimonies from victims. They spoke of being recruited as models or hospitality workers, only to find themselves trapped aboard cruise ships, transferred to private yachts, and eventually sold to wealthy collectors. One detail appeared repeatedly, a white lotus symbol, sometimes hidden in jewelry or accessories worn by the syndicate members. Wei worked through the night, organizing the evidence into a coherent narrative. By dawn, he had drafted an exposé that would shake Singapore to its core. He sent encrypted copies to his editor and to a contact at the Independent Commission Against Corruption, one of the few agencies he still trusted. As he finally prepared for bed, his phone rang. The number was blocked. Mr. Tan, a woman's voice said, "My name is Liana Dharma. I believe we have mutual interests to discuss." Wei froze. "How did you get this number?" "The same way I know about your meeting with Mei Lin yesterday. I'm not your enemy, Mr. Tan. I want to help you expose the truth." Wei's journalist instinct screamed that this was a trap, but his reporter's curiosity was piqued. "Why would you help me?" "Because not everyone in the organization agrees with its direction. Meet me at the Singapore Flyer at noon. Come alone, or I'll disappear." The line went dead, leaving Wei staring at his phone. Was this a genuine whistleblower, or was he being lured into a trap? Wei arrived at the Singapore Flyer, the massive observation wheel that dominated the skyline, 30 minutes early. He'd taken precautions. The thumb drive was hidden in his apartment, and he prepared a dead man's switch email that would send all his evidence to media outlets if he didn't reset it every 24 hours. He spotted Liana immediately. She was striking in a white dress with a subtle lotus pattern along the hem, a bold declaration of her affiliation. "Mr. Tan," she greeted him with a practiced smile. "Thank you for coming." "I'm listening," Wei said cautiously, declining her offer to board the flyer. "Not here," Liana insisted. "We need privacy. The capsules are secure. No recording devices allowed." Against his better judgment, Wei followed her into one of the giant glass capsules. As it began its slow ascent, offering expanding views of the city, Liana's demeanor changed. "I understand you have evidence against the Jade Lotus Syndicate," she said directly. "I'm writing a story," Wei acknowledged, "but I don't discuss my sources." "The story you're writing is incomplete," Liana said. "You have the who and the what, but not the why or the how. I can give you that." As the capsule reached its highest point, Liana revealed her true identity. Not a whistleblower, but the daughter of the syndicate's leader. "My father built this operation over decades," she explained. "But now he's lost control. The business has become cruel, unnecessary suffering. I want reforms, not destruction." Wei studied her face, looking for deception. "Why should I believe you?" "Because I can give you the captain himself. Exclusive interview. His confession. But first, I need to know what evidence you have and where." Wei almost laughed. "You must think I'm incredibly naive." "No," Liana replied smoothly. "I think you're ambitious. This story could make your career. But publish what you have now, and you'll only scratch the surface. The syndicate will rebrand and continue. Work with me, and we can dismantle it completely." The capsule completed its rotation, returning to the platform. Wei remained non-committal, promising to consider her offer. "I'll contact you tomorrow," he said, stepping out of the capsule. "Don't wait too long," Liana warned. "Things are in motion that can't be stopped." What Wei didn't know was that while they spoke, Huang and his team had broken into his apartment, searching for the evidence. They found nothing. Wei had hidden the thumb drive inside a hollowed-out book on his shelf. That evening, Wei met with his editor, Raj Sharma, at a crowded hawker center. The noise provided cover for their conversation. "This is explosive," Raj said, having reviewed Wei's draft. "But dangerous. We need irrefutable proof before we publish." "I have it," Wei assured him. "Video, testimonies, financial records, even shipping manifests." "And you're sure about this Liana woman? She approached you directly?" Wei nodded. "She's playing some angle, but I haven't figured out what yet." Raj looked troubled. "Be careful, Wei. These people aren't just criminals. They're connected. Politicians, business leaders will be taking on the establishment. That's why it matters," Wei insisted. "No one else has gotten this close." As they parted ways, Wei felt a prickling sensation on the back of his neck, the feeling of being watched. He took a circuitous route home, changing trains twice and doubling back several times to ensure he wasn't followed. His apartment door showed subtle signs of tampering, almost imperceptible, but Wei had learned to notice such details. He entered cautiously, finding everything seemingly in place. The thumb drive remained hidden in his book. He checked his laptop. No signs of intrusion. Wei made a decision. He couldn't risk keeping the evidence in his apartment. He needed to move it somewhere safer. He created a new encrypted copy of the files and hid the original thumb drive inside a waterproof container, which he then secured behind a loose brick in the exterior wall of his building, a dead drop location only he knew about. As he finished, his phone vibrated with a text from an unknown number. "The White Lotus blooms at midnight. Or the Evening Star tomorrow. Cabin 8C. Final offer." Wei recognized the name. The Evening Star was a luxury cruise liner departing Singapore the next day. The message had to be from Liana. Was this his chance to get the final piece of evidence? Or was he walking into a trap? Morning broke with a thunderstorm that drenched Singapore in sheets of rain. Wei had barely slept, weighing his options. The Evening Star would depart at 4 p.m. If he boarded, he would be in international waters, beyond the reach of Singapore's authorities, but also without protection. He called Mei Lin, but her phone went straight to voicemail. He tried again later with the same result. A seed of worry took root in his mind. Wei made his preparations methodically. He updated his dead man's switch, adding a note about the Evening Star and Liana's invitation. He packed a small bag with essentials, including a concealed camera and recorder. Before leaving his apartment, he called Raj. "I'm going to meet her," he said when his editor answered. "On the cruise?" "Wei, that's suicide." "It's controlled risk," Wei countered. "I need the captain's confession to complete the story." "At least let me send Priya with you," Raj suggested, referring to their newspaper's photographer. "No, too suspicious. But I've left everything with you. If I don't check in by midnight, publish what we have." As Wei hung up, he didn't notice the black sedan parked across the street, or the man watching his building through the rain-streaked windshield. Wei arrived at the Singapore Cruise Center 2 hours before departure. The Evening Star dominated the dock, a gleaming white vessel with blue accents, promising luxury and escape. He passed through security with his press credentials, claiming to be writing a travel piece. Once aboard, he made his way to cabin 8C and knocked. Liana opened the door, dressed in the uniform of a cruise staff member. "You're early," she said, glancing down the corridor before pulling him inside. The cabin was a luxurious suite with a sitting area and panoramic windows. A man stood by the window, his back to them. "My father," Liana introduced him. "Reza Dharma." The man turned, revealing a face that had never appeared in any of Wei's research. Distinguished, with silver temples and calculating eyes. "Mr. Tan," Reza said, "my daughter tells me you're interested in our operation." Wei maintained his composure. "I'm interested in the truth." "A noble pursuit," Reza smiled thinly. "Please sit." What followed was a surreal conversation. Reza openly discussed the syndicate's operations, explaining how they had evolved from traditional trafficking to what he called bespoke placement services. "We provide what the market demands," he said clinically. "Labor, companionship, specialized skills. Our clients pay premium prices for discretion and quality." Wei recorded everything covertly, asking questions that elicited increasingly damning responses. Reza spoke with the confidence of a man who believed himself untouchable. "Why tell me all this?" Wei finally asked. Reza's smile never reached his eyes. "Because journalism is about stories, Mr. Tan. And I'm curious what story you'll tell when you leave this ship." The implied threat hung in the air. Wei realized his mistake too late. He had walked into a carefully constructed narrative, one where he was not the investigator, but the investigated. As the ship's horn sounded the departure warning, Reza stood. "Liana will see you out. Consider our conversation background information." Wei rose, careful not to show his growing unease. "And the on-record interview?" "Perhaps next time," Reza said dismissively. "For now, you have decisions to make about your story." As Wei left the cabin with Liana, the ship began to move. They walked in silence to the gangway, where crew members were preparing to close the access. "Last chance to disembark, sir," a crew member told Wei. Wei hesitated, looking at Liana. Her expression was unreadable. "I need to go," he said. "Of course," she replied. "But remember, some stories are better left untold." Wei hurried down the gangway, his mind racing. He had recorded evidence of Reza's admissions, but also a clear threat. As he reached the dock, he looked back at the departing ship and saw Liana watching him from the deck, her white dress billowing in the wind. Wei didn't go straight home. Instead, he went to the newspaper office, where he transferred his recording to Raj's computer. Wei hurried down the gangway, his mind racing. He had recorded evidence of Ray's admissions, but also a clear threat. As he reached the dock, he looked back at the departing ship and saw Liana watching him from the deck, her white dress billowing in the wind. Wei didn't go straight home. Instead, he went to the newspaper office, where he transferred his recording to Raj's computer. "This is it," Raj said, listening to Ray's damning admissions. "With this and the evidence from Mei Lin, we have enough to publish." "We need to move quickly," Wei insisted. "They know I have something." Liana practically admitted they'll come after me. "Go home and pack essentials," Raj advised. "Stay with my cousin in Johor Bahru for a few days until this blows over. I'll handle the story." Wei nodded, suddenly exhausted. "I'll send you the location of the backup drive, just in case." Wei never made it home that night. 3 days later, his disappearance became a footnote in the media frenzy surrounding the expose published by Raj Sharma. The cargo, inside Singapore's elite human trafficking ring. The story sent shockwaves through Singapore society, naming prominent figures connected to the Jade Lotus Syndicate. International authorities raided the Evening Star in international waters, but Reza and Liana Dharma were nowhere to be found. The ship's records showed they had transferred to a private yacht hours after departure. At the newspaper office, Raj received a package. Inside was a waterproof container with a thumb drive, the one Wei had hidden in the wall of his apartment building. With it was a handwritten note. "If you're reading this, I didn't make it. There's more evidence here than what I shared. The White Lotus doesn't just traffic people. They traffic secrets. Government secrets. Finish what I started." "Wei." Raj inserted the drive into his computer. What he found made the published story look like just the tip of the iceberg. Meanwhile, at a private airstrip outside Bangkok, Liana Dharma boarded a small jet. As she settled into her seat, she removed a lotus-shaped pin from her lapel and studied it thoughtfully. "Where to now?" the pilot asked. Liana gazed out the window, her expression unreadable. "Wherever the current takes us. The cargo always finds its way." In her hand, she held a press credential that had belonged to Ji Wei Tan. What happened to Wei remains one of Singapore's most haunting mysteries. The Jade Lotus Syndicate was dismantled, but rumors persist that its leaders merely transformed their operation, continuing to hide in plain sight among the wealthy and powerful. Some say Wei was silenced permanently. Others believe he became another piece of cargo, transported to some remote location where his journalistic instincts could never again threaten the powerful. But the most intriguing theory comes from occasional sightings. A man matching Wei's description, seen in the company of a woman wearing a white lotus pin, both of them moving easily through the world's most exclusive circles. Was Wei eliminated? Imprisoned? Or did he make the ultimate compromise, joining those he had sought to expose? The truth, like the white lotus itself, remains elusive, beautiful on the surface, but rooted in the darkest depths. If you enjoyed this episode of Crime Stories PH, hit subscribe and the notification bell to be alerted when we release new stories every week. Leave a comment about what you think happened to Wei, and don't forget to share this video with anyone who loves true crime stories. Until next time, remember, in the world of crime, nothing is ever as it seems.